Yeah, we thought of doing this partly because of the conversations we have had on things like thermodynamics and energy and all that. Partly because of the conversations that we have been having on Ayurveda, where we were trying to make sense of the notion of Prakriti and Purusha in Ayurveda, which comes from Sankhya, and the possibility that Purusha can be conceptualized as energy in modern terms and Prakriti in modern terms as matter. So then the question would be, how do we interpret Prakriti Purusha in the context of cosmological theory? So those are the conversations that we have been having in the Ayurveda thread.
So I thought in the same breath you're mentioning Vedanta and Mimamsa and Gita, Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, and Gita has Sankhya in it. It's a particular version of Sankhya where Purusha is viewed as the cosmic being. But it doesn't have to be cosmic being. It could be, cosmic it.
Yeah.
Krishna says that he is Purusha who created things, but that's not necessarily compatible with the atheistic, non-theological Sankhya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, one of the fundamental issues raised in Bhagavad Gita is also, how shall we conceptualize and define a human being with a balanced mind and a balanced wisdom, called Sthit Pragya. So, and Arjuna sort of raising a question which actually has not been answered in the Bhagavad Gita.
No, actually he's bamboozled into believing that his duty is to kill his relatives and teachers.
And also, basically it's very, I think, intense question in, Sthit Pragasya Ka Bhasha, Samadhi Sasya Keshava. So basically linguistic questions,
Can you translate that? I'm not, I'm not a Sanskrit person.
The second chapter, when Arjuna is stuck in the battlefield and Krishna is sort of persuading, so he asked, that please tell me how shall I figure out that, I am balanced? Because he tells me, you should have a balanced being and not be carried away by these emotions of, family and so on. So then he says, Sthit Pragasya Ka Bhasha, Samadhi Sasya Keshva, Sthitadi Kim Prabhashet, Kimasit Vrajet Kim. Sthitadi Kim Prabhashet, jo sthir buddhi wala hai, a person who has a stable mind, how does he speak? How does he sit? How does he stand? And what is his language?
Interesting.
This is the sort of core couplet which he doesn't address, and he goes on to Dukheshu Anudigna Manaha Sukheshu Vigspriya. So he talks about, that you should be stable in suffering and happiness and joy, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And you should not have rag, bhay, and krodh. These you should not have.
Yeah. But the language question has not been answered.
No, not at all.
I don't think any of the theoretical linguists would be able to answer that question either. It's a very interesting question.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's also, basically a competence and performance question.
Yeah.
At the same time,
Yeah.
What is his language and how does he speak?
Yeah. That has been a problem for many years for me, that the words that I use, when I use words, I try my best to make it as clear and precise as possible. But in the course of doing so, I do not pay attention to the connotations of the word and the possible emotional reactions it can create. And so I have all kinds of problems because of that. I caused vibrations that I didn't intend.
Yeah.
So one quick point there. This is something that I've been thinking about for many years now, especially what Ramakant mentions. Sthitapagya Sakya Bhasha Samadhistasya Keshava. A doubt that arose in my mind when I mean, after 2-3 years of reading that is Arjuna asking, how can I be a Sthita Prajna? Or is he asking, how can I identify a Sthita Prajna when I see one? Are these two the same thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
And the third question that Rama was raising was, how do I speak?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you see, obviously, the issue here is, extended to a wider sort of universal perspective. Implicit are both, what should be my language and my behavior, and what should be the language and behavior of the person whom I wish to identify as a friend or an enemy, So that's very crucial. And the descriptions, the answers to that are, sort of more psychological and mental rather than linguistic at all. So there is a description of various kinds of descriptions of, that how should you keep your mind stable.
There also one more question to you. You mentioned, of course, it's called Sankhya Yoga. After Arjuna Vishada Yoga comes Sankhya Yoga. In my mind at least, the Sankhya philosophy is different from the Sankhya Yoga in the Gita. While the names are the same, the concepts are kind of different. At least my understanding is that Krishna is not talking about Sankhya philosophy there, because this came much later. So so that's also there.
My understanding is that it is Sankhya Yoga is applied philosophy. That's how I see it. And when people apply a theory to for practical applications, practical in the sense of mind and emotion and so on, two problems arise. When the word Sankhya has multiple philosophies under the word Sankhya, and then when you move from there to the application, it's not clear they are really using the philosophy that they're drawing it from. And that's extremely confusing. And added to that is the fact that this was written at a time when we are not really sure about the kind of ontology that existed within that broader community. So anything to do with the so-called ancient South Asian, I'm stuck because I don't know how to interpret the words.
Yeah.
Even the word something like hetu, I think I have a slightly better understanding than I had 20 years ago, but I'm still struggling.
So that what you're mentioning is one thing, is definitely a point more. The other point is, I'm yet to, at least, this is again personal opinion, I'm yet to meet two people who would agree on what the Gita, at least on every part of the Gita, if they've read the Gita. I have not found any two people who will agree. They will always be. But so, leave the ontological part of it, and the time period, and at least, again, from a satisfying or bounded rationality, even within what we know today, it lends itself to a lot of interpretation. It gives faith to people, it gives logic to people, it's a mode of, sort of argument, and it depends on how you interpret it. Is there one single interpretation of the Gita possible that everybody can or is willing to accept? I'm not sure. No. I'm not
No,
sure
but
at
when
all. Huh?
That claim, you see, that claim is a legitimate claim for any, I think, great piece of, for example, literature or art or poetry.
Yeah.
At some level, it is poetry. I mean, interpretations of, let us say, Ode to the Grecian Urn or Hamlet or King Lear, I mean, are going to be infinite.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
question about that.
Actually, even in the what shall I say, most rigorous, clearest attempt to formulate our thoughts in some language, and let's say people who have been working together for a long time, like for example, take Rama and me, or John Goldsmith and me. We say, yes, on that I agree with you. Both of us say that, and on this I disagree with you. After some more discussion, we realized that when we said I agree with you, we were wrong. And then when we disagree with you, that is also wrong.
That is wrong.
Yeah. So it is a continuous process of.
You see, so one is
Can
not
we ever say we
surprised.
understand each other?
One is not surprised that Lord Krishna evaded the issue of language.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to add on to that, I'm totally in agreement with what both you're saying. If we take, for example, if one is an Advaitin, then what Shankara is supposed to have written, right? The Gita Bhashyam, his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita is considered the seminal text for the Advaitins. Then came Madhvacharya and the Advaitins and the Vishishta Advaitins. They attacked his interpretation of the Gita Bhashyam. They wrote their own Bhashyam on the Gita. So I mean, even historically, I mean, not at the same time. The three of them did not. So which one would you consider the actual Bhashyam, which is the actual interpretation? Is it Madhvacharya? Is it Shankara
or at a more plebeian,
Yeah.
plebeian level? Do you want to listen to Radha Krishna or Vinoba Bhave or Gandhi?
In fact, in theological schools which follow, which train sort of students in scriptures and Upanishads and rituals and whatever. So if Visishta Dvaita following student or a family were to admit their son in an Advaita following school, which is very common. So, like all the Shankara Mats have established their own gurukuls and pathshalas where they teach the Shankara Bhashya of Gita. So, what the students would be told is that now you learn this and then you will learn how to refute this because this is not ours. You see, you go to the Shankara Bhashya school despite being born in a Vaishnavite family, not because you need to accept that, but you need to learn that and in order to question it. And they have strange claims. For example, I have seen these Vaishnavite scholars claiming that of all the Bhashyas of Gita and Brahma Sutra, etc., only the Ramanuja Bhashya is called the Sri Bhashya. Sri is the appellation for, something, an honorific for something holier than the rest, or an exalted kind of position. Therefore, ours is the best. It's universally accepted. Shankara Bhashya is not called Sri Bhashya. No other Bhashya is called the Sri Bhashya. It is the Ramanuja Bhashya which is called the Sri Bhashya, and therefore we are right, and ours is the text that one should follow. So I think I have not read these the differences, etc. But then I think these contestations go on. But very interestingly, they let there is intermingling of students for each school, but not to learn. I mean, a Visishta Advaitin student cannot go to a Shankara Bhashya teaching school and say that, yeah, this seems logical and I think I will accept that. That is not there is no freedom to do that. You have to learn it and then come back and question it and refute it.
Yeah. But Sriram, isn't that kind of more recent phenomenon?
Maybe. Yeah, I don't
Shankara
know.
himself is very recent.
Yeah, all these guys are very recent. I mean, Ramanuja is even more recent than Shankara.
Yeah. So, but if you go to the earlier versions of whether you call it scriptures or texts and so on, there is a humility that prevents people from saying, I know. So my favorite example is the Rigveda hymn raises a number of questions, and then something like towards the end it says, who knows? And then it says, maybe he knows, he with a capital H, followed by
maybe he doesn't.
Not even he. Yeah. So that's a kind of humility that was characteristic of that time, I think.
Correct. So that was the whatever sukta it was probably the first leap in terms of religious imagination, where the omniscience of the God or the supreme being was being questioned. Whether he knows. I don't know whether he knows. Was probably the first thought, of its kind.
And you have similar thing in Upanishads, actually.
Right.
So that culture of intellectual humility and argumentation for understanding rather than refutation. That I think disappeared. It was replaced by arrogance, actually.
Yeah.
And argumentation to defeat.
And empty arrogance.
Yeah. Even the very concept of Brahmin, where was it? There is this student who goes to a guru to learn, and the guru asks him, are you a Brahmin? And the student says, I don't know. My mother had so many partners. I don't know which of them is my father, so I cannot tell you whether I am a Brahmin or not. And the teacher says, that answer convinces me that you're a true Brahmin, regardless of your biology, who your parents are, the kind of honesty and the truth that you exhibit, only a Brahmin can have that. Now, the notion Brahmin here is not biological inheritance. It is a mental quality.
Right.
And that changed into, by the time it came to Shankara, he held that women and lower caste should not be taught. That notion of Brahmin changed by the time it came to Shankara.
So, there is the Skanda Purana. It's, of course, it is weaponized. This couplet has been weaponized these days by people who still ascribe to what the hell? The Saphronites right now. It goes, Janmanat bhavet Shudraha, Karmanat bhavet Dvijaha, Vedadhyayi bhavet Vipraha, Brahmajanati Brahmanaha. By birth, everybody is a Shudra. By karma, you become Vipra. Vedadhyayi. Veda means not the Vedas itself. By gaining knowledge, you become a Vipra. A person who knows the Brahman is a Brahmin. That's what they meant. It is according to me something else. How it has been taken and weaponized today, and this is ancient Skanda Purana. How it has been weaponized, even something like that can be weaponized today. That is a different thing. And when it comes to Shankara, Ramanuja, and Madhava, a lot of, I would, if there are people from either Rasing, then with due apologies, a lot of it is who follow. Part of it is largely hagiographic. Even historically, there is, for example, Viveka Chudamani. If you say Shankara wrote, there's no proof that Shankara has written the seminal text on the crown jewel of wisdom, Viveka Chudamani. It's a beautiful text, but it's half hagiographic, half historical. Even today, people are fighting over where Shankara was born. His mother's place, his father's place, where the Chinmay, I won't take names. So, if you're looking for historical accuracy, I don't know. At least my knowledge, I don't know.
No, there can be some degree of historical accuracy in the following. Here is a text. Let's see if we can understand it. It doesn't matter who wrote it. So whether a person called Panini existed or not, it doesn't matter. We can say there is a there is a text that we can have now called Ashtadhyayi, and we can see what it is saying and what kind of theory it is building and how it is relevant for modern linguistics. All that kind of stuff can be asked without, making Panini into a person as the author.
Or a Brahmin or a Shudra.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Then you can see that Chomsky inherited Panini through Bloomfield and perhaps Zelig Harris and all that. And we who appear to follow Chomsky have that inheritance from Panini. Maybe some of the misinterpretations, who knows? At Stanford, I was known as rabid Chomskyan. And at MIT, I was known as anti-Chomskyan. And I couldn't have been both at the same time. And at some point, I told Chomsky that I am more Chomskyan than you are. And he just laughed.
So what you're saying more is, I think if we ask that question, is, for example, it could be, can we ever know what more ever means? Or similarly, can we ever know what Shankara meant when he wrote this?
No, in fact, I cannot answer the question what exactly I mean. It's a struggle for me. And I try to understand what I mean by engaging with others. And then I say something to the effect, I don't know how to put it. This is what I ought to have meant, or something to that effect.
The really sad part is that there has been no, there cannot be, given the kind of circumstances we live in, or the times we live in effort to actually establish that, okay, this is the authentic work by someone called Shankara, and this was where he was born, and this is where, this is possibly the life that he led. And otherwise, we are just left with this commonly accepted, almost universally accepted story that, he was born in Kaladi and he lived till the age of 32, and, he did this and he did that. He refuted Mandana Mishra somewhere in the east, and he refuted someone else somewhere. And he wrote, this is his work and all of that. So to even question, not to question this with to question this with a genuine interest to understand whether are we talking about the same person, and where was this person, where did this person live, and what did he compose, and what was what was his contribution. That is right now not possible. Even within the Shankara followers, there is one group of followers who place him in the BC. And there is the more commonly accepted group places him in the 9th century AD. So when I told somebody that if you say that Shankara established all this, the six parts of Hinduism, including the Vaishnavism and the Shaivism and Gaumaram and whatever else, and then he lived in the 8th century, then Christianity in India and even Islam in India predates Hinduism. Because Cheraman Perumal is supposed to have built the mosque in 600 plus AD, and you are talking about Shankara in the 800 kind of year. So I get shocked, if you accept some of these. But it's very, very difficult to question these and actually, go behind and then find out for something, or, what could have been the case with Shankara, Ramanuja, or anyone. Ramanuja is supposed to have lived till 110 or something there. Could he have lived till 110? Where was he? Who was this man? No, no answers. You have to accept this. That's all, and just move on.
Yeah, I want to actually turn the conversation to some of the themes that I pointed to in that one-page note, namely, let me begin with Dalton. Dalton's claim that atoms cannot be created or destroyed. This is a kind of talk about conservation. If you think of conservation as change, and atoms, it is not the case that there was a time where atoms did not exist, so it couldn't have been created, and atoms would never become, non-existent. Therefore, it cannot be destroyed. That notion of cannot be created or destroyed, whatever that X is constant in all kinds of places. Any law of conservation says precisely that, except the conservation laws are formulated in quantitative terms. It cannot increase or decrease. Symmetry in the sense of discrete, again, is the same. Symmetry is that which remains persistent, something that is conserved. And this is all over academia. I mean, at least all over science, not necessarily all academia, and also philosophy. Science and philosophy have this fascination for things which remain constant, things which change. Heraclitus versus Plato. And without some understanding of these threads that are all over science and philosophy, I think it'll be very hard to understand modern science as we know it. And for example, symmetry and symmetry breaking is crucial for evolution. So I would like to, maybe have a conversation of that thread so that we get a slightly better grasp of this. Actually, several threads seem to be woven together under the notion cannot be created or destroyed.
How is this connected to Mimamsa or Vedanta?
Vedanta says Atman cannot be created or destroyed. And that's what Sankhya says, right?
Okay.
Now the question would be, what's the relation between Atman and Paramatman and Brahman? So one could say the reason why Atman cannot be destroyed or created is Atman is simply a manifestation of Brahman. So all that it happens is that Brahman evolves into whatever Paramatman is. In between Brahman and Atman, the level of Paramatman it's unclear to me, but at least Atman evolves into multiple evolutions, and that gives you different Atmans. But all these Atmans are underlyingly Brahman.
So, Mo, there is a very interesting, I don't know if you've heard, maybe you've heard of the Manisha Panchakam, which is ascribed to Shankara, where he goes and meets a Chandala on the way, and it's a hagiographical account. Yeah, he asks the Chandala to move, and because he's an untouchable, and the Chandala says, "Are you asking me to move, or the Atman in me to move?" And then there is one paragraph, one stanza in that. Of course, Manisha Panchakam is my belief. Panchakam is a quintuplet. But one part of that where he says, "King Gangamburi bimbite ambaramanav Chandala vatte paya pure va antaramasti Kanchana gatim mritkumbhyor ambare." Is there any difference between the sun shining on the Ganges or the sun shining in a puddle where Chandalas live? Or is there any differentiation between the space that is enclosed in a golden pot or an earth pot? So this is what I remember, but they don't say that, that it cannot be divided or matter is conserved or something. They're saying things are the same. See, the sun remains the same, the reflection remains the same, the space remains the same, irrespective of the container. So, they believe that there was something which was consistent throughout. This is the first thing that comes to mind. They might not have talked about atoms, and therefore they say that what the idea, at least as far as I understand it, is that the Brahman is, again, this is Shankara, right? So it is the Advaita part of you. Keep that in mind. This is not Mahesh. This is, I think, a hagiographic account of what happened to Shankara. But
Yeah.
the point is, they're saying space is the same, the sun is the same, the reflection is the same, so everything is the same. We are a part of this entire thing called Brahman, and therefore, trying to separate it is futile. And therefore,
That it is that part that I have some reservations about, because I see that statement as being the same as symmetry. Symmetry says we are looking for identity in what looks like differences. That is symmetry. So rotational symmetry is when you change the orientation of, let's say, a triangle, there is something that is constant. For example, the shape is constant and the area is constant. And what changes is simply the orientation. But even the orientation, when you change it in a certain way, it looks exactly the same. So it's a threefold symmetry for regular equilateral triangles, fourfold symmetry for squares and so on, and infinite symmetry for circles. That's a notion of symmetry that we have. And when a circle becomes a square or a regular hexagon, then there's a breaking of symmetry, but some symmetry remains. Now, isn't that the same as that which remains the same regardless of changes or regardless of differences?
if you're talking about poles, again, if you're talking about poles in symmetry, for example, this year we're doing something on origami, right? And I've done last 4-5 months, I did a deep dive into origami and mathematics. The basic fold, it's called a Mura fold. The basic fold remains the same. It's a crease and a valley and a peak and a valley. And when you look at it, for example, the James Webb Space Telescope, the mirror that they created there was made using origami. If you look at it, is symmetric. But if you look at how they unfolded the basic, the way it was before, it was saying the totally folded thing, you will not know that this damn thing can become a huge mirror out there in space.
Yeah.
Therefore, I mean, so are you saying that symmetry is a property that existed before it folded? I mean, you can see the symmetry only after it opens up, right? I mean, I'm taking a very literal example of what happened in real life. That's all.
Yeah. Symmetry can be conceptualized in terms of process or in terms of, relation. Symmetry is the sameness in differences. So you don't have to give a process interpretation.
The way we are talking about symmetry now, for example, I think has nothing to do with the Shankara or with the Chomsky or with the Panini. I mean, this is trans-time and trans-disciplinary. I mean, for example, the case of sound, for example, the way it is conceptualized in saying that, once it is uttered, it's never destroyed. It's there.
Yeah, that is the process interpretation where, the existence, non-existent becomes existent or existent becomes non-existent. That's a process interpretation. Suppose you take away the process interpretation and you say that an allophone, I'm sorry, I'm going to speak bit of linguistic jargon. An allophone is a realization of a phoneme. Or you can say active and passive constructions are realizations of the same semantic relations. That which is constant is the semantic aspect, the receiver and but the way they are different is their realization in terms of subject and object changes. And that is symmetry is in this particular case, symmetry is the identity with respect to the actor and the actee. And the realization is different. And precisely the same thing applies to homology. What is homology? Homology is the existence of similarity in diversity. So that is the idea of symmetry breaking and evolution. But the moment you say evolution, you're seeing it in a process shape. But you can see symmetry and transformation in geometry without using the process metaphor. You can say, take for example, you can take a given, let's say, right angle triangle and expand it. It remains a right angle triangle, but its area or size is different. Or you can also shrink it. So what remains symmetric is the shape. What changes or what the difference lies in the size. And when it comes to topology, even that can change.
Yeah. You see, no, I was, I mean, issues were mentioned and authors and names were mentioned, in certain sequence and certain dates, which are with the historicity is obviously important. I'm not denying that. But what I'm saying is that probably the more important thing is that what are the parameters? And also I connect it with your saying that, we agree and disagree. And then when we realize, oh my God, no, we agree on what we had disagreed, etc.
Yeah.
So to me, it's all connected. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's not disconnected. So I was wondering whether it is more important to think about the sort of set of parameters or, philosophical correlates, which would, which would be satisfactory enough or, on which we will agree upon, which will test, which will say, yeah, these are the parameters along which you should be able to say something. Then we will say, yeah, its meaning has been acquired or it has been understood. So I think that to me seems to be very central, whether it is conversation between us or it is what Panini claimed or Shankara claimed. So I think those set of parameters should be,
Ultimately, for my interest in this is to help students achieve a way of thinking that would be productive in their inquiry. So let me take a concrete example. The conversation that we had just now, 2 minutes ago. If I said homology and diversity in biology, symmetry and transformation in mathematics, physics, and underlying representation and surface representation in theoretical linguistics, they are all essentially the same idea. If you look carefully, you see that there is a core that is present in all of these. And that core idea, if you use the word symmetry, all of them have symmetry. Or you could say, if you use the word biologist terminology, all of them have homology. So underlying representation and surface representation are homologous to symmetry and symmetry breaking. One could typically, in a situation like this, somebody could say, oh, no, but there are serious differences. Or somebody points out the differences, the other person could say, oh, no, but they are the same. In reality, what happens is you are simply emphasizing differences or emphasizing sameness, but they coexist. You cannot have sameness without differences and differences without sameness. They're two sides of the same coin. So this kind of disagreement involving but when there are differences and similarities is actually not particularly productive. You could say, I want to pursue the differences and you can pursue the similarities, and then we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
So I could say, as a linguist, I can see that the lexical functional grammar and Chomskyan, let's say, minimalism are almost the same, just differences are in some notations and so on. Or, if I engage in a conversation, after some time, I would say, no, they're not actually notational variants. There are some empirical differences, but very minor. And the other person would say, somebody like Chris Collins would say, oh, those are not minor, those are big. But that issue cannot be resolved.
So, in which case, Mo, I have a question. So therefore, if we take symmetry, right? Uh, and correct me if so this is my understanding. Therefore, we have to define symmetry so that it can be applied across philosophy, across science, and geometry. These are the three.
Let me also add linguistics and biology.
And linguistics and biology. Right. Sorry, I missed out on those two. That's one. The second part of it is this is a question that I have. Therefore, is symmetry a quality? And I'm not going to. I mean, don't go by the terms I'm using exactly. Is this a quality we ascribe to something, or is it inherently present in whatever we are talking about? And if it is inherently present, then what is the symmetryness of symmetry? If you understand my, because if it has to be there, there has to be some symmetryness of symmetry, right? In and of itself. And therefore, what is the symmetryness of symmetry?
Yes, I completely agree with what's being said, really. I think that is, you see, let me take it a step further. This is exactly what I meant by, let us call them, I mean, for want of better word, let's call them the primitives of accepting anything as meaningful, or something like that. We can formulate it better, but those are the primitives. Or let us say symmetry or coherence, or or logical inferencing or things like that. We can think about them, and then for each one of them, we have to say that what is it that we actually mean by symmetry. For example, for me, you listed certain disciplines, right? Which is fine. There is no disagreement. But for example, I cannot conceptualize about anything in nature or nurture without symmetry. Without having some concept of symmetry in mind, and without some concept of aesthetics, very difficult to define. But on the other hand, I think they are probably very central to or coherence in an argument, logical coherence in an argument. So that is what I meant, and I completely agree. That we need to say, you have 3 points if it's a triangle, and if you do something, whatever. I don't know how best to characterize these things.
Let me try by quoting one particular definition of symmetry, which uses the notion of change. Now, whether or not I subscribe to it, that's a different thing, but I want to put it on the table. Symmetry is that which remains unchanged in a change. When there is a change, there is always something that is left unchanged. And that thing that is unchanged is symmetry. Now, I use the process metaphor, and a good example of understanding that is the chemical change. In a chemical change, if you look at the left-hand side of the equation and the right-hand side of the equation, the total number of atoms on the left-hand side and the total number of atoms on the right-hand side must be the same. That is the symmetry. Where is the change? The change is the configuration of atoms. The molecular structures are changed. So symmetry is the number of atoms, and symmetry breaking, that which is changed, is the configuration. And if you accept that definition, then you could say the same thing about, for example, if you look at my finger, there are 3 parts. And each finger has it has a 3-part structure. My arm has a 3-part structure, this part, and this part. And my legs also have that 3-part structure. And the digits on the foot is symmetric with the digits on my hand. Then if you go from me to human beings, we find this aspect completely symmetric across humans, unless there is some defect. And you can now expand it to say, okay, what about humans and chimpanzees? Yes, the same three-part structure. What about chimpanzees and humans on the one hand and cows? Yes, the same. What about chimpanzees, humans, and cows and bats? Yes. What about whales? Yes. So notice that the three-part structure is symmetric across these. And interestingly, you might find it even in insects. The three-part structure is found there. That's a symmetry. But you don't find that in let's say, bacteria. So it ends at that level. So the longing for finding symmetry is a human, we can't help it. Whether it exists out there in nature or not is not something that you can say. We can only say this is built into our brain, looking for that which remains unchanged during a change.
Order out of chaos.
Yeah, or to remove the process completely from here. Similarities in differences.
More, in which case I have another question. So if I were to tell you that, see, if you say X part structure, X being a number, it is the number that is not changing there. I mean, the number is not changing. But symmetry in and of itself, I mean, it's just something that we are ascribing because that number is repeated. So it's a number that's not changing. So if we define, then symmetry becomes a function of numbers, right? I mean, if we define it that way.
Not necessarily a number. It
I
can
mean,
also
in
be
this
said
case,
relations.
in this particular case, I mean, if we say three part, there is something depending on if we say three part, then it's a number three. That, I mean, I generalize.
That's a number three,
so,
yeah. But it doesn't have to be a number, is what I'm saying. It can be quality.
No, a square or a rectangle will have symmetry, and a polygon will have a symmetry. So that's not. That's not. But what I think, I mean, there is a sense in which, I mean, for lack of better words, in the sense in which asymmetry would be integral to conceptualizing symmetry. That's what it is.
That is where we have to, when you have asymmetries, this but not that, that is where explanation is needed.
In which case, let me take this one step further. For example, in chaos theory, etc., we have fractals, right? There is a Mandelbrot set. I've seen this happening in real life in housing where it's plotted. The first 4 or 5 nonlinear equations, first 2-3 times or 6 times or 7 times when that particular equation is plotted, the human brain cannot find symmetry there. But you keep on iterating, then you would see that, the bigger structure is exactly the same as if you drill down to the smaller structure. Symmetry arises out of asymmetry. I mean, at least in this, what we consider asymmetry in this particular case. Therefore, so what is the symmetryness of symmetry?
That's why I said symmetry and asymmetry are two sides of the same coin. One cannot exist without the other. Without differences. If there is, imagine, for example, a universe in which everything exactly the same as everything else. There are no differences. Well, you will have, the symmetry also disappears, because for symmetry to exist, there must be some differences. So if you say something like, these two pictures have the same shape, but they have different colors. Or these two things have the same color, but different shapes. There must be some difference and some similarity, without which symmetry cannot exist and asymmetry cannot exist. So you cannot take away symmetry from asymmetry. The moment you pick symmetry, asymmetry comes with it. So that's why I said differences in similarities.
And if we take it similarities in exactly. If we take, I was just coming to that. If we say similarities in differences, I'm just quoting the idea of it. I'm not, but I think I have it. I'm not sure, but more. Aren't you talking about what Advaita? I mean, I don't know about Vashishta Advaita or Advaita much, but isn't this what Advaita talks about the Brahman as?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that what you're actually talking about?
Yeah. Various people have accused me of being a Brahman seeker. And sometimes when a class discussion happens, I say something and say, oh, yeah, you're after Brahman. Yes. I am a confirmed Brahman seeker, but not in the sense of Sankara. I am a Brahman seeker in science, which is why I'm Chomskyan. Sorry,
I don't.
sorry about
I
the
mean,
jump.
yeah, but that I have. That is not. I have. I mean, I have some idea, but I will not even dare to go there in front of you guys in terms of what linguistics is. And that no need to poke. I mean, look, I may be stupid, but I'm not stupid enough to poke the bear unnecessarily and talk about linguistics and Chomsky in this context with you.
Why not?
No,
Please do it. We might learn something valuable.
Simple things to understand.
Yeah.
They're not big things. They can be illustrated. This, symmetry, asymmetry can be illustrated very easily, and that they are the,
So the fact that we have done so much work in linguistics and you have not, that does not mean that you should not question us.
You see, let me give you a very simple example. If you know a little bit of Hindi, for example, the plural form of ladka is ladke. That's boy. So boys. If you ask anyone what is the plural of ladka, so native Hindi speakers would instantly say ladke. They're very happy that they have answered a question, etc., etc., and we go on, and then we illustrate it with a few sentences. Ladke khana kha rahe hain. And then I confront them with a sentence like, ladke ne khana khaya. And, then they're stumped, that ladke. Now, you see, you have this form, which is this identical form, but has a diversity of functions, in the grammar. And it can be plural or it can be singular. And, so...
And you have the opposite case, the same function, but two different forms in ladke versus ladkiyan.
Yeah.
On a quick sort of, I don't know, I mean, it's a funny aside, but this is something that I've been struggling with. Maybe you guys already know it, but I won't take more than 30 minutes. In Indian languages, as far as I know, I mean, for example, in Tamil, you can say, "Neenga unga appa amma ke ethanavadu paiyan." Or in Hindi, "Aap apne maa baap ke kaun se," I mean, we can't literally say that, "kaun se bete ho." I mean, which literally translates to,
how many
which child are you?
Yeah.
There is no way to ask that.
There is a funny translation. How many child are you? In Malayalam, say etramate.
Which exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that. I don't know.
So you say, I am the fifth offspring of my parents, and this guy is the seventh offspring, and that guy is the third offspring. How about you? How will you ask that question in Hindi? How many child are you? English doesn't have a way of asking that question. You have to go in a roundabout way.
Yeah. So Hindi also, for example, you would say, "Aap kitne bhai behan ho?"
That's how many. Yeah. Right, but it doesn't give you the rank.
Aap bade ho, chote ho, nahi main beech ka hu.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not the ordinal position.
No.
Yeah. Oh, but ordinal can also be there. this comes before, that comes before.
You can ask, आप कितने बच्चे हो? आप कितने बच्चे हो?
I see, okay.
Sound odd. I mean, grammatically it's possible to ask, somebody.
Yeah. This is where the idea that, language is meant for communication.
Yeah.
Yes, it is true, but there are also many things that you can. Language prevents you from asking or saying.
Yeah. Okay, is there a time limit to this?
We generally finish in 1 hour or so.
Okay.
And typically what happens is by 1 hour, people get kind of, slightly exhausted. And when people start going, leaving, then we say, okay, it's about time to stop. Since there are only 4 of us, one person leaves is 1/3.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm sorry, 1/4.
3 of us.
Yeah. So we could say this is an exhausting question. And so it may be a good idea to pick it up some other time.
Yeah.
I read a comment recently somewhere. I don't remember in what connection. It is a very sort of interesting comment. It said that if you were to be living in sun, there is nothing like a thing. There is no other thing.
Yeah, that's right.
There is it. The sun is the Brahman. So there can't be any other. There is no other in sun.
Yeah.
So that earth is the one, or away from the sun is the one where the word thing has come into existence. You describe something as thing because you differentiate that from something else.
Yeah. Wasn't that the case if you accept cosmology, the Big Bang cosmology?
Right.
There was a time when there were no differences. Everything was exactly the same. That is perfect symmetry.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can't remember which Upanishad it is, but it is one of the, it says, Sadeva Sarvam Idamagra Asit, which means in the beginning, everything was one.
Yeah.
It actually starts with that.
Yeah.
Everything was undivided. I can't remember, and this is one of the Munis, I mean, the sages speaking to his son, and the discourse is between the sage and oh God, okay, it's old age, senile decay, 52 years, senile decay is setting in. But I used to know this by in my mind. It says Sadeva Sarvam Idamagra Asit. Earlier, everything was one.
Yeah, you can always look it up and find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, everything was one.
Yeah. Notice that this is exactly what Big Bang cosmology says. This is what's interesting. Everything was one. There were no distinctions, and differences arose later in the course of time. So in the beginning was Brahman, or in the beginning was perfect symmetry in the universe. Whether you're science or whether in philosophy or science, you're saying the same thing. That's that between these two there is perfect symmetry.
And to connect this with Mimamsa, I mean, you have Uttara Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa, you have Purva Mimamsa, you have Dvaita, Vishishta, Dvaita.
Yeah.
We have, in some form or fashion, we have firmly established more that you are an Advaitin. Yeah, you are not a Vishishta Advaitin, you are not a Dvaitin, you are an Advaitin. We have established that.
You see, I combine Advaitinness with the exploration of the differences. But the moment I say something like Malayalam versus Hindi, I'm looking at the differences. But the moment I say universal grammar, I'm an Advaitin. But we cannot do, Malayalam grammar and Hindi grammar without universal grammar. And of course, you have to go further up. It's not simply grammar, but also the entire universe. So I perfectly agree that I'm an Advaitin, but you cannot say, therefore, I am not X. I'm also that.
Oh, that's what Advaita means. You're this, you're that, but you're that only.
Wait. That formulation is a little, not the only is problematic. I am both is not a saying only this.
Oh, okay. That was just my little joke more.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. This was good.
Bye.
Even though it is only four of us.
Bye. Bye.